Montauk, Long Island, New York, the eastern tip of the island, where wealthy summer homes overlook the Atlantic. But beneath the surface, locals whisper about something darker, something that happened at Camp Hero. Camp Hero Air Force Station, built in 1942 as a coastal defense installation. Its massive and /FPS 35 radar tower, the Sage radar, dominated the skyline, a Cold War sentinel watching for Soviet bombers that never came. Officially decommissioned in 1981, the equipment dismantled, the base abandoned, case closed. But according to witnesses who came forward in the 1990s, something continued at Camp Hero long after the official shutdown. Something classified beyond top secret. Something that would make the Manhattan Project look transparent. They called it the Montauk Project. The story emerges from multiple sources, primarily Preston Nichols and Al Bielek, who claim to have been participants in experiments conducted between 1971 and 1983. Their accounts describe a secret continuation of the Philadelphia experiment, the alleged 1943 Navy test that supposedly made the USS Eldridge invisible and accidentally opened holes in time. According to these whistleblowers, the Montauk Project had three primary objectives: psychological warfare research, development of time travel technology, and interdimensional portal experimentation. The facility supposedly remained operational throughout the 1970s and early 80s, hidden in plain sight, staffed by military personnel and civilian scientists with compartmentalized security clearances so deep that most workers didn't know what the project truly was. The experiments allegedly focused on a subject known as the Montauk Chair, a device that could amplify psychic abilities, particularly those of gifted children. These children, some as young as 10 years old, were supposedly recruited or abducted, brought to the underground levels beneath Camp Hero, and subjected to mind control experiments designed to weaponize their consciousness. But the project's ambitions went further. According to the testimony, researchers discovered that sufficiently amplified psychic energy could bend space-time itself, create portals, open doorways to other times, other dimensions, other realities. The witnesses describe missions through time, operatives sent to specific dates in the past and future. They speak of creatures accidentally pulled through dimensional rifts. They describe a catastrophic failure on August 12, 1983, exactly 40 years after the Philadelphia experiment, when a portal spiraled out of control, releasing something that forced an emergency shutdown. Mainstream science dismisses this as elaborate fiction. The U.S. government denies the project ever existed. Camp Hero is now a state park. Visitors walk through the abandoned buildings, photograph the decaying radar tower. Completely unaware, they're supposedly standing above a vast underground facility where reality itself was torn apart. But the witnesses persist, and their stories contain details, technical specifications, personnel names, dates that align with documented but unexplained events that keep researchers digging, trying to separate truth from paranoia, trying to answer one question: what really happened at Montauk? The core of the Montauk Project, according to witnesses, was a device they called the Montauk Chair. Not a time machine in the Hollywood sense, no spinning dials or glowing portals. This was something stranger. A chair designed to interface directly with human consciousness and amplify psychic potential to reality warping levels. Preston Nichols describes the technology: a modified dental-style chair surrounded by electromagnetic coils connected to massive radio frequency transmitters, the same transmitters that powered the Sage radar. The subject would sit in the chair, electrodes attached to their head, and their thoughts would be amplified through the equipment, broadcast at frequencies that could affect the electromagnetic field itself. But not just anyone could operate the chair. The project allegedly required psychically gifted individuals, and specifically children, young minds, not yet hardened by adult skepticism, with natural psychic abilities that could be enhanced and weaponized. This is where the story turns darkest. Multiple witnesses claim that children were recruited, or in some cases, abducted for the Montauk experiments. Runaways from New York City, troubled kids from foster systems, children who wouldn't be missed, brought to Camp Hero, subjected to psychological programming, trained to use the chair. The most frequently named subject is Duncan Cameron, allegedly Al Bielek's brother, described as having extraordinary psychic abilities. Cameron, strapped into the Montauk chair, could supposedly manifest physical objects from pure thought, create creatures, open portals through time by focusing his consciousness on specific dates. The process was allegedly brutal. Witnesses described children screaming, nosebleeds, psychological breaks. Some subjects supposedly never recovered, their minds shattered by the amplification process. Others disappeared entirely, lost in time, lost in dimensions, or simply eliminated when they became liabilities. One researcher, Stuart Swerdlow, claims to have been one of these child subjects. He describes memories recovered through hypnotherapy, underground rooms filled with strange equipment, men in military uniforms, experiments where his thoughts would materialize as visible energy fields. He speaks of being forced to remote view specific targets, to project his consciousness across distances, to interact with entities that existed outside normal space-time. The government's response to these allegations? Complete denial. No records of such experiments exist in declassified documents. No personnel have been officially identified. Camp Hero's history is fully documented and contains no gaps. The Montauk Project, according to official sources, is pure conspiracy theory, likely inspired by the science fiction novel The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, published in 1992. But that creates a paradox. The book was supposedly based on recovered memories and witness testimony that emerged before its publication. Preston Nichols claims the book documented real events. Critics say Nichols' memories are false, implanted or fabricated. But false memories of what? Where did the specific technical details come from? Why do multiple witnesses describe identical equipment and procedures? And there's another troubling element. In the 1980s, Montauk experienced unusual phenomena that locals still remember. Strange lights over Camp Hero, livestock behaving erratically, reports of missing time, people experiencing hours they couldn't account for, electronic equipment malfunctioning near the base, unexplained power outages. Coincidence? Mass hysteria? Or evidence that something really was happening at Camp Hero? Something that affected the local environment, something that left traces even if the official records were scrubbed? The Montauk chair supposedly still exists, hidden in the sealed underground levels. Or it was destroyed in the 1983 shutdown, or it never existed at all. Three possibilities, one truth, but which?
In a parallel way so that people can actually have parallel lifetimes going on.
Well, time is essentially like a real estate. In other words, as you and I can walk through real estate from point A to point B, all time coexists, and it's possible to go from point A to point B if you can find the path to go directly from. Some people believe it's taking the linear timeline, bending it over next to each other and creating a wormhole or a punch-through from time A to time B.
August 12, 1983. According to Montauk Project witnesses, this date was chosen deliberately. Exactly 40 years after the Philadelphia experiment, August 12, 1943, when the USS Eldridge allegedly became invisible and its crew experienced horrific side effects, some fused with the ship's bulkheads, others driven insane. The researchers at Montauk supposedly believed that temporal resonance existed between these dates, that experiments conducted on the same date 40 years apart would create harmonic synchronization, making interdimensional breaches easier to achieve and control. They were half right. Preston Nichols describes what happened. Duncan Cameron in the Montauk chair, consciousness amplified to unprecedented levels, was instructed to open a portal to a specific time and location. But something went wrong. The portal expanded beyond the researcher's control. Instead of a stable doorway, it became a vortex, pulling objects and possibly creatures from other dimensions or time periods. Witnesses described chaos, equipment overloading, electrical fires, personnel evacuating, and something coming through. Descriptions vary, but multiple accounts mention a large creature, possibly synthetic or interdimensional, emerging from a portal and rampaging through the facility. Some versions of the story claim it was a manifestation of Duncan Cameron's subconscious fears, given physical form by the amplified psychic energy. The only way to stop it, according to the testimony, was to destroy the equipment. Operatives allegedly smashed the transmitters, severed the power connections, and physically destroyed the Montauk chair while Duncan was still connected to it. The portal collapsed, the facility was sealed, and the Montauk Project was terminated, or so the story goes. Al Bielek claims that he and Duncan Cameron were actually Philadelphia experiment survivors who had been age-regressed and given new identities, that they retained subconscious memories of the 1943 incident, and that the Montauk experiments were partially an attempt to recover that suppressed knowledge. The complexity of this narrative has led many researchers to dismiss it entirely as elaborate fabrication. But here's what we can verify. Camp Hero was officially decommissioned in 1981, yet local residents report activity continuing at the base through 1983. The SAGE radar supposedly stopped operating in 1980, yet some witnesses claim to have seen it active in 1982 to 83. Strange phenomena reported around Montauk in the early 1980s. Electromagnetic anomalies, unusual light displays, equipment malfunctions are documented in local newspapers, though explanations vary. In 2002, the base was transferred to New York State Parks. Most buildings remain sealed. The underground levels, which officially don't exist, are inaccessible to the public. Urban explorers who venture into the restricted areas report strange feelings, electronic equipment failures, and in some cases, missing time. The scientific community's verdict is clear. The Montauk Project is a myth, a conspiracy theory built on recovered memory syndrome, science fiction novels, and Cold War paranoia. No credible evidence supports time travel experimentation, psychic amplification technology, or interdimensional portals. But ask yourself this: if you were government conducting illegal experiments on children, developing weapons that violated every ethical standard, and accidentally tearing holes in reality, would you document it? Would you leave evidence? Or would you bury it so deep that anyone who spoke about it would sound insane? The Montauk Project exists in that perfect conspiracy theory space, where absence of evidence becomes evidence of cover-up. Can't prove it happened? That's because they erased the records. No witnesses coming forward? They were silenced or mind-wiped. Equipment destroyed? Obviously, to hide the truth. This circular logic makes the story unfalsifiable, but it also keeps people searching. Researchers interview aging witnesses before they pass away. Engineers analyze the alleged technical specifications, looking for feasibility. Psychologists study the consistency and contradictions in the testimonies. And at Camp Hero, the radar tower still stands, slowly rusting in the salt air. The underground levels remain sealed. And if you visit on August 12th, exactly 40 years after 1983, which would be 2023, some locals will tell you to pay attention. Notice if your watch runs strangely. Notice if you lose track of time. Notice if you feel like you're being watched. Because if the Montauk Project really happened, if they really did tear holes in space-time, if the portal wasn't completely closed, Then maybe, just maybe, it's still there, waiting, resonating across time, ready to open again when the harmonic alignment is right. The Montauk Project, government cover-up or elaborate hoax, mind control reality or recovered memory fantasy, time travel breakthrough or science fiction nightmare. The witnesses stand by their stories. The government maintains its denial, and the truth, if it exists, remains buried beneath the sands of Long Island, in sealed rooms that officially don't exist, in memories that may or may not be real. Camp Hero waits, the radar tower watches, and the mystery endures.
We're now seeing new wiring that goes up to the roof. Some of this wiring has dates of like 89 on it. This wire we're looking at here is dated 1988. It has a nick in it to make it look used. The nick is just deep enough so it doesn't hurt the function of the wiring, but it looks old. They would do this to camouflage it so nobody would notice it. But if you look at the date and know how to read the date codes, you realize it's new wire. We're now inside the UFO landing pad or FPS-6 radar tower. This is early mind control in these rooms. This is the black and white room. I've seen pictures of a room just like this in a Timothy Leary report, that Mr. Leary used a room like this to enhance LSD experiments.